one video I've been asked for quite a few times. People are interested in how I got started in excavation. Let me try to talk about the first few experiences I had with excavation and the first pieces of equipment I bought and all the pieces that I bought that I sold and why I did it in the first place. So really, I got into excavation almost as a necessity because I had been planning on buying a vacant piece of property for a couple years, and I knew it was going to need a driveway and clearing and a lot of work done, as I was only looking at untouched parcels. And hiring someone to do the amount of work I was going to need to do would have been way more expensive than just buying the equipment and doing all the work myself. Plus, it was something that seemed like a lot of fun to me, so I definitely wanted to do it myself. Alright, so I got to talk about my utility trailer quick. That trailer you often see me towing behind my pickup truck, I didn't buy that. I actually made that. So here's videos of it, or pictures of it. You know, this is pretty much done. All the metal work's done here, and there's the primer on it. So it was the rusty metal primer for the frame, and then the clean primer, and then here it is painted. And then I wanted to thoroughly paint it, so I brought it outside and tipped it over to paint the bottom of it to make sure I didn't miss a single spot. And here it is with all the decking on it. That was my friend had that brand new pickup truck at the time. But yeah, I've gotten a ton of use out of this trailer, and I still use it today. Alright, before I talk about excavation, let me just talk about lawn mowing quick. I was mowing people's lawns for a while. I never made much money doing it, mainly because the mowers always broke. But it was good practice to deal with customers, and I met a lot of people doing it. So I'll just show you some of my mowers. This was probably my favorite mower here. I think it was something I paid like 40 bucks for, and I really liked how this one worked. The problem was it would just break all the time, but I cut a ton of grass on that thing. Then I bought this Toro Zero Turn, thinking that would be better, but I don't know how people mow lawns on these things, because this thing would get stuck all the time. If the ground was a drop wet, it would immediately get stuck, and you could not go on hills with this thing whatsoever. It would just slide down hills out of control, and ponds were like a magnet for this thing. Like, I got this thing stuck so many times, and you couldn't get it out. And I'd be driving my pickup truck through someone's yard to pull this lawnmower out of some ditch or something that shouldn't have even been stuck in the first place. So, and plus this thing used to break all the time too, so I did not like this mower. There's a picture of it stuck in nothing. Alright, so then I bought this lawnmower. I was like, alright, this is 4-wheel drive, it's diesel, it's new, it's got a shaft-driven mower deck. This one should be good, but this one didn't get stuck, at least, but that mower, this thing was a piece of garbage. You could not cut grass on that thing. It would break down constantly. That mower deck just did not break, or just did not work at all. Plus, it didn't even do that good of a job cutting grass. Then I added this flail mower to the back of it. That was a little bit better, but it was just kind of annoying. So I sold that. I still cut lawns. Well, not lawns. I still cut fields, and I use this tractor. And it's probably a good thing I could never find a lawnmower that actually worked, because then I'd probably still be stuck doing it, not making that much money doing it. But I'll do the occasional field with this thing. And this mower is great. Like, you can hit stuff. You could chop up cinder blocks with the thing. That thing almost never breaks. So it's very nice to just go mow a field and not even question if the equipment's going to break down. I should talk about pickup trucks quick. This was my first 3/4 ton pickup truck. It's a 96 F250. I think I paid $3,000 for it, and it came with a plow. And this was a pretty good truck for a couple years. I really liked it, but towards the end the thing got super unreliable, and I was just constantly fixing it. And then it had like a few major repairs in a row, and I sold it with a broken transmission. But then after I sold the Ford, I got a super good deal on this Dodge. This was a 95 and it had a diesel motor in it, and the thing was in really good shape. And I paid $2,500 for this truck with a plow, and I still have that plow. That plow is awesome. And yeah, this was a great truck, and I'd probably still be driving this truck, but a tree fell on it. And you know, I drove this for a few years, and I was gonna fix it when the tree fell on it. It needed a cab and a bed. And then I bought a parts truck that had a cab and a bed and supposedly had a bad transmission. And here's the tree that fell on it right here. And I ended up driving the parts truck because it said, I bought it at an auction, said bad transmission, couldn't drive it, nothing. Got it home, started up, it drove around the block. I was like, well, this thing drives pretty good. I ended up driving the parts truck. So, and then I think I sold this truck. I think I got like $2,000 for it, and I kept the plow. So I was lucky on that one. Well, kind of. I was kind of lucky. Oh, and then at the same time I bought that Dodge, like the same day, I bought this Army truck. And, you know, that was pretty cool. I mean, it wasn't super practical, but it was still neat. I did use it for a few jobs. I did use this for moving my excavator a few times before I had my dump truck. Alright, my first ever experience of excavation was when I needed more storage in my garage because I was doing a lot of work in the garage and there was a lot of stuff in there that was in the way. So the plan was to build a shed on the back of this garage. Now, what was in this spot, there was a big rock in this spot, and I had hired one of my friends at the time whose dad had a backhoe, and he came over and dug the rock down as much as possible. And then I had him, he couldn't get all of it because it got harder. So then I had him dig a trench next to it, and then I rented a jackhammer and used that to break up the rock and then just throw the pieces that we broke off right into the trench that I had dug. So that worked pretty well. And before I did any of this, there was a big stump there, and I dug this stump out by hand. It was a pine tree stump, like a tree like that, a big pine tree, and pretty much I just dug at it with picks and a shovel and using a chainsaw and a hatchet to cut off the roots. And then I just stuck bottle jacks under there with big plates so they wouldn't sink into the ground, and I pretty much jacked this huge stump right out of the ground. I wish there was a time lapse of that because it took like 2 days to do it. And my dad thought I was like crazy or something for doing it because no one even asked me to do it. I just decided to dig out this big stump by hand just to see if I could do it. But yeah, so then once the rock was all broken up, that spot was cleared and ready for the shed that got built there, which was nice because it cleaned out the garage, and then I was really able to get a lot of work done in there once there wasn't junk everywhere. So first piece of heavy equipment I had ever run was a Terramite backhoe. I had rented it to spread out a pile of dirt and dig some post holes for a fence. And then once I finished that work, I had it for the day. I made an ATV jump with it and did a little bit of clearing with it. Alright, so I had used that Terramite backhoe to the material that I took from the shed excavation. I moved over here and I used that rock and dirt and I made this wall and then planted these trees, and I dug the holes for this fence with that Terramite. And that went pretty well. I wasn't super impressed with that Terramite. So the next machine I ever ran, and I didn't take a single picture of it, unfortunately, but it was the water line to the house broke, and it needed to be dug up and replaced. And it was probably maybe a 200 feet dig, and it's got to be down 4 feet so it doesn't freeze. So my dad had hired these guys that essentially they rented this Volvo excavator. It was pretty new. I think it was like a 27 or like a maybe a 2 or 3 ton unit, And the guy who rented it, he had no idea how to run the thing. And then I ended up running it. And within 10-15 minutes of running that thing, I was so impressed with that machine. It was just so awesome because I was working on this steep hill, and I put the blade in front of me to level out the machine, and the machine was so smooth and so fast and quiet. I was so impressed with that machine. I knew I had to have one. You know, my dad's like, oh, you can just rent it. You know, it's only $300 to rent it for a day. I'm like, Dad, that's crazy. Do the math. All right, I rent the thing for a year, $300 a day for a year. I could have bought a few brand new ones for that price. You know, you just got to own the machines. You cannot rent them. That's just out of the question. So yeah, after having that experience on that excavator, I knew that was something I had to have. And I was just looking at used ones from that point. And just kind of, you know, I didn't buy one right away, but I was at least sort of saving up money and looking at what was for sale, so I at least got an idea of what should be going for what amount of money. This is the first piece of heavy equipment I ever bought. It was a 1960 to 65 John Deere 1010 bulldozer. It had a gasoline motor, and I had done a ton of work to this thing. I paid $3,500 for it, but when I bought it, it was yellow and rusty, and it worked, but it needed a ton of work. So the things, I built this roll cage on it. It didn't have that. I put these track pads on it. The ones that were on it were like smooth, and they just didn't get any grip. I rebuilt both front idlers. I rebuilt the steering clutch on this side. I did all new gauges and pretty much rewired the whole thing. Did lights. So I used it quite a bit. I brought it on a few jobs and stuff, but it wasn't a very profitable machine to be bringing on jobs because it used to break down like all the time. And you know, but it was definitely a real good learning experience. And you know, one positive thing I got out of it, like I did a bunch of jobs at my house, and you know, I did some clearing and put a driveway in from like the middle yard to the very backyard, and you know, I'm still like using that driveway and stuff. So it was useful. So here's some pictures I took when I was rebuilding the steering clutch, and that's the final drive out and the tracks apart. And there's the idler. I had to rebuild that, the bearings in there. So here's another John Deere 1010 I bought, but this one never ran, and I never even tried to get it running because the guy I bought it from said it had seized up like 30 years ago and it had been sitting outside. But I think I paid like $400 for this. Alright, my second piece of heavy equipment was my Komatsu excavator. And I still have this, and I still use this a lot. This has been an extremely reliable machine. I've probably only fixed it maybe 3 or 4 times since I've owned it. And I've used it. I've gotten a tremendous amount of work done with this machine. This thing is absolutely great. Okay, so my, I guess, third piece of heavy equipment was this Ford 1520 tractor, and I still have this, and I still use this tractor a lot. I've gotten an absolute ton of work done with this tractor. The thing is excellent, and it has been very reliable. Now here's a tractor I had fixed up just kind of for fun. It was a Ford 2N, so here's a before photo of it, and then there's an after photo, and I pretty much did a full service on it, fixed the wiring, painted it. Alright, another bulldozer I bought was this, I think it was from like the 40s or 50s. It's a Caterpillar D2. And I tried to get it running, but I was never able to. The previous owner I bought it from, I only paid $300 for it, and he said he had the pony motor running, but when he'd engage the pony motor to the diesel motor. It would just stall out the pony motor, and he said the diesel motor was seized up. I messed with it for a while, but I couldn't get it freed up. I was trying to even pop start it with another bulldozer, but it was just locked up. But probably the more interesting thing about this, I wish it was on video, because when I went and bought this, I went there with my pickup truck and that trailer I had built, and an electric winch, and my plan was to winch it on the trailer. And there was like 4 old guys standing there telling me I was never going to do it and I should give up and I was crazy, and they're just saying it wasn't happening. And like, I eventually told them like to all shut up, and it took me like 2 hours to get this thing on the trailer, but I got it on there and I showed them, and like they were like speechless, because I was like jacking it up with jacks and just winching it, and that was probably really. I wish there was like a time lapse of me doing that, because I don't know what this thing weighs, probably 5 tons, but the tracks were seized up too, so it wasn't like it was rolling or anything, and it was down a hill in a difficult spot, so winching that on the trailer was no easy feat. And there it is. Like, I painted it. Painting it doesn't make it run, but all right, so the next piece of a heavy equipment I bought was this thing. I don't know if you guys ever seen these before. This, I've always kind of was interested in how these work. All right, so in the Northern Tool catalog, these are in there and are still in there. It was $15,000 free shipping for these. And I always kind of saw it in there, wondering how it was. Then I saw one on Craigslist in my town, and the guy wanted like $9,000 for it. Said it had 40 hours on it, so the thing was pretty much brand new. I was like, all right, well, it's only right down the road. Let me go check it out. So I go there, I run it, and I offered the guy $5,000 for the thing, which is like, almost like half of what he was asking, and he was like annoyed about it, but it's like he took it, so that should have been a sign right there how this thing was. But so I ended up with this, and I wasn't even here. This wasn't even for sale. That was there too, just sitting there. I saw it had a couple flat tires, looked like it hadn't moved in a while, and I ended up making a deal on both of them. So I got the backhoe too. So then we got it running and drove it on. Here's my army truck, and I borrowed this trailer from my friend, and I got that home like that. And then I fixed, I spent like a day or so fixing the backhoe. I had to fix some tires and do a bunch of little stuff to that to get it going again. But I still have this backhoe. I still use it. It's been pretty good. I mean, I have to fix it pretty often because I don't really like John Deere stuff. Like, John Deere stuff always seems broken to me. But I do tolerate this one. I have fixed it quite a bit, but it's okay. It's the last John Deere thing I'm ever buying now, but all right, so talking about that Nortrac bulldozer. So the day I closed on my property, I had that up in there within like the hour, because the plan was to widen up the driveway and kind of clear a spot, because like my driveway there was like a trail there, and you were rubbing through brush the whole time, and then you couldn't even turn around or anything. So I brought this in there to widen it up, and then really got a chance to run it. This thing was kind of a piece of crap. It would break all the time. The tracks would fall off of it. I was constantly having electrical issues that I'm pretty sure I worked them all out when I sold the thing, but plus the transmission used to lock up on you. Like, you'd go forward, be moving, and you put it in reverse, and then let the clutch out, and it would just be locked. So then you'd have to put it in forward again, move a little bit, then go in reverse. So that was like really scary that the transmission was going to break. And I don't know, the thing just kind of felt like it was too small to do like any real bulldozer work. It would have been a cool little track tractor because it had a 3-point hitch, and the Perkins diesel ran good, and it was really fast, which was cool too. It had, like 10 gears, and if you put it in the highest gear, it would move. But one thing that happened on it, I had quite the accident, and I've never really had a heavy equipment accident before, but it was more, I don't really feel it was operator error as much it was just a piece of crap machine. So I'll explain what was happening. This is the hill going up to my building. So my building's like, probably right in here or right up here in this flat spot. So this is, my. So anyway, I climbed up the hill with the thing, and I was starting to cut in this driveway right here, and I was pushing up. Then I was like, all right, I think it'd be better if I was pushing down. So I'm right here trying to turn around, and all of a sudden I'm turning. You step on the steering clutch to turn. All of a sudden I'm steering. The thing just starts rolling backwards towards this hill, and there was no brake pedal on the thing. I was kind of thinking the whole time it didn't have brakes. Really, the brakes were like the steering clutch pedals. So you would have had to step on both of them to have brakes, but the brakes, it would disengage the steering clutch, but the brakes wouldn't come on. It was just way out of adjustment. I ended up fixing it, but it was such a stupid design on that thing. So anyway, I was rolling backwards, and I'm trying to put it in first gear. I couldn't get it in gear because it was rolling. Trying to put the blade down to stop me, but it happened so quick. I just kind of went right off this hill backwards, and I like as I got to here, I saw what was happening. Like, all right, I'm not stopping it. I was gonna try to jump off the thing, but it was like the cab on this thing was just so small and it was so hard to climb in and out of it. So I just kind of leaned forward and just crashed, and I ended up cutting some trees down to get it out of there, but I pretty much sold that thing. You couldn't get any work done on that machine. I remember doing work on it, work there later, and just the tracks would fall off, and then this thing was just a complete waste. It was just a piece of garbage. So this was like the driveway, and the driveway kind of sucked because the truck was stuck, and I used to have to winch and stuff when you're going in, and this was probably going out. I think I was bringing that thing home fixing it. All right, so forget those junky bulldozers. You couldn't get any work done on those. So here I am with my backhoe. That was actually getting work done. And then I had, one of my friends he was starting excavation right around the time I was too. And he had just bought this machine. And he came up with it. And that's kind of how I learned a lot of stuff, was working with this guy initially, because he had experience working for a big excavation company before. So I just kind of watched some of the stuff he was doing. And I was so amazed with that machine, though. The big excavator could really get stuff done. Because, like, the backhoe, you couldn't really pick stuff up, because there's no thumb. You couldn't grab stuff. So you were just kind of sliding things around. It would get stuck in the mud. It wasn't maneuverable. The excavator could pick up trees and just do whatever you want, and it could go anywhere you want. So at this point, I had a trail, and I was able to drive into this lower section here, and I had a little space down there cleared so I could turn around and park and stuff. But I knew I wanted to put my campers and my building and everything up on this hill here. And this driveway wasn't here. There was nothing here. It was just like the woods you see. It was trees and just a hill. So I had already failed with the one bulldozer to get up here. So then I was here with my backhoe, and I was trying to come up the hill with the backhoe, but the thing, it would get stuck at the very base. I couldn't get anywhere in that thing. Couldn't even move. So my friend was here with that green excavator, and he drove that thing right up this hill like it was nothing with that excavator. And he cut this road in with the machine, and pretty much that green excavator is the reason for this driveway being here. So you can see there it is. So once I saw that, I knew I had to get an excavator like that. It was just so impressive how that machine was able to drive up that hill almost effortlessly. Then I started looking for a big excavator too. But, the backhoe was nice, but the backhoe can't do near what the excavator can. It's just not even close. Like, backhoes can do a lot of stuff, but they're not good at anything. They're just fair at most. Excavators are excellent at stuff. So, yeah, so that's the driveway was kind of in, and then I had all these campers I had collected. So here, this one, that one was pretty nice inside. So I brought that up, and here, this is where my building is, like right over here, and this is before. And my hot tub is like right over here. Yeah, okay. So here's the rock that's right in front of my hot tub. So my hot tub house is like right here, and my building is like right here. But you can see how different the site looked before. Alright, so this is funny. This is my one steep driveway going down. I decided I wanted, 2 driveways up my hill, so let's see. So I just started going down it backwards with the backhoe and just digging my way. But that was pretty scary because that was a little steep for the backhoe, and it's just like there was nothing behind you but like drop off. So that was sketchy, but I got it in. But I didn't like finish it. Then I was trying to finish that with the bulldozer, and I remember that was the day that the track fell off the 1010. And I'm like, all right, let me go get that Nortrack, the other bulldozer to pull that. Then the track fell off of that thing too. So I had 2 bulldozers sitting there with no tracks on them. I was like, all right, these things are garbage. I gotta get rid of these. And then I think we used my friend's green excavator, pulled them out of the way, and then finished this hill with. So I don't know. It got finished. So then I bought this. I didn't have a dump truck up until this point, so I bought this 1 ton. I paid $1,300 for this. I still have this truck, and I got a lot of use out of this thing. This was a great little truck. It's still a great truck. So this is at the guy's house before I bought it. And there it is. But yeah, that International. That thing is great. I almost bought this machine. I kind of almost wish I had. It was a pretty nice machine. And I can't remember. I think the guy was maybe asking like 18 for it. And I think I made him a decent offer. I offered him like 16, which I felt was fair. Like it wasn't, I can't remember what the numbers were, but it wasn't much less than what he was asking. And I probably even would have paid more for it, but the guy was kind of weird. He said a few things that were weird. And then plus he had the controls. He changed them all around on this thing, so it was like John Deere or backhoe controls. The pattern was not what any of my other machines or any of my friends, or it wasn't the standard pattern, so that just kind of annoyed me. I mean, no, it's not a big deal, but I mean, this was a nice machine, but I didn't buy it. But then I made him the offer. He said no. I went home. He called me up like an hour later. He's like, I'll take that offer. I'll deliver the thing. And I was like, I'll get back to you. And I never bought it. But it was probably for the best, because then, like a week or 2 later, I found this for sale. And I still have this. This is my big excavator, my Hitachi EX100. And I've gotten an absolute ton of work done with this machine. Once I got that, I was really able to get stuff done on my property, because my friend with the green excavator, it was like summertime by this point, and he was busy on other jobs, so I couldn't really get him back for a while, especially for the amount of work I wanted to do. So once I got this, I could really get stuff done. This was nice. And there we are working on the driveway. That's my friend's truck. So here's so this is, then I start, once the driveway was kind of in and I had the lower hill kind of cleaned up, I started digging like the flat area up where my building is. So my building is right here, and this is before anything was there. So this was still, there was no flat spot up here. Like it was all a hill. So what I had to do to make any flat, you'd have to come over to this side, take dirt, and then come to this side and dump it. And it was quite a bit of that. Oh, this is so then Hurricane Irene happened, and that was kind of a pain for me, because a bunch of trees fell down, and it took away time from what I was trying to do on my property. But anyway, my friend had lent me this sawmill, and I used it to build this shed here because there was a shed here that was kind of junk that fell down. So all right, so yeah, this is right where my building is, right where the machine is. So that's pretty neat, seeing that spot, you know, with no building there. I just I was flinging this car around. I was trying to get people to ride in it. No one wanted to get in it. So here's putting the gravel down on my driveway, or the shale. So I put that shit because it was just all mud before. It used to get stuck all the time. So I put down pretty much. This is how you got to do it. If you're putting in a road, like, you got to just dump each load touching the load behind it. So like my driveway ended up getting like over 100 loads on it. But then, you know, you spread that out and track it in, and you got a nice road. This is a truck. I probably should have bought this truck. I think the guy wanted 10 for it. And actually, I still really want a truck like this. I should buy one. I need it, but didn't buy that one. So yeah, here's my army truck, and there's my new. I just bought this trailer, so there's my new trailer. And this was moving this. Someone gave me this shed, so I loaded that on the trailer, the excavator. So here's when I first got my dump truck, and then, you know, there's my new trailer too. So then I was able to, you know, I didn't have to borrow my friend's trailer anymore. And now with the dump truck, you know, that you really kind of need a dump truck when you that 1 ton couldn't carry enough weight. It was okay for some stuff, but if you're trying to haul stone or something, the 1 ton just wasn't heavy enough. And then, you know, once I had the truck and trailer and everything and the excavator, and I had experience because I had done a ton of work on my own property, then I was starting to take bigger excavation jobs. So here's one. I would demolish this building and then loaded all the debris in my truck and hauled it away. But that was probably one of the bigger jobs I had ever had up until that point. Yeah, that was a pretty big building. Plus it was full too, so I was there a couple weeks. Alright, so here's my Yanmar. This machine had actually been local for me. It was only right up the road, and I used to see it all the time sitting in this guy's yard. And then the one day I drove by and it had a for sale sign on it. I was like, I'm buying. I didn't even know what the price was. I just knew I was buying it. So I bought this, and I had to do a few things to it initially. He didn't have a bucket for it. Like, he had this trenching bucket, which was stupid, and then he had this grading bucket, which was stupid. Plus, it was broken. So like the guy, like the whole time he owned it, he didn't have the right bucket. So I don't even know how he was running this thing, because neither one of the, like, it's stupid. I don't like that bucket. And the grading bucket's nice if you're grading. If you're not grading, it's not that nice. And then the thumb on it too was like too short. Like, it didn't meet up with the teeth, like, on either bucket. Like, obviously in this trenching bucket, it would end up like right here, so you couldn't even really use it. And even on the grading bucket, like, it was just too short. So once I got the new bucket and I made the thumb longer, and I had to do a few other repairs to this thing. I think the fuel tank was full of algae when I bought it. But this machine has been absolutely great. This is definitely like a lot more useful, because the big orange one is kind of too big for a lot of jobs. This one can kind of do anything. This machine has been absolutely great. The thing is almost never broken. I mean, only a handful of times have I ever had to repair it. So it's been super reliable, and I've just gotten tons of work done with it. So then, like, that same week, I bought this. It's a 1960s Caterpillar 955H. And the reason I bought it, I had kind of had a few old people tell me, like, two different people didn't know each other, you know, prior to this. Like, they were like, you got to get a 955. They were swearing how it was the best track loader ever made. And so I'd always kind of been looking for one. And then I found one. and I bought it. This thing is awesome. You can really move a lot of material with that thing. It gets a full scoop every time, which is cool, and it's pretty quick, and it's been very reliable. I haven't used it on a ton of jobs because it's rare to have a job that kind of calls for it, but when you need it, it's awesome. Okay, here's another track loader I bought. This is a John Deere 2010 diesel, and I was at this farm equipment auction, and the kind of the joke with this auction is like everything there is like garbage. And it's like we always joke, it's like, oh, the scrapyard had a yard sale, or the scrapyard had an auction. That's what the joke is. So this was probably like the nicest thing there at the auction, but it was selling for like $1,500, and like the auctioneer was like ending the bid, and I didn't even want the thing, but I'm like, man, for $1,500 I want it. And then all of a sudden, like I start bidding on it, and all of a sudden I was the winning bidder for $3,000. So I'm like, whoa, how'd that happen? So I should stay away from auctions. But anyway, I bought that, and I got some work out of it, but it wasn't. I was always kind of fixing it, like always. Like I was always messing with the starter. There was always. I got this. It was all right, but I was just fixing it too much. I ended up selling it. I painted it. It looked nice painted, but yeah, look at that. It looks brand new there, huh? Actually, I've seen it a few times since I've sold it. I sold it to this guy locally, and he was putting in a road with the thing, and I think he got some work done with it, but I think he's like been so busy at his job. I know he bought a backhoe for it too, because I told him about I was on a job and there was a backhoe sitting there, like the backhoe attachment that goes right here. And I asked the guys, like, hey, I know a guy who's got the crawler that backhoe goes on. And he's like, yeah, I'll sell it. So the guy bought it, and it's still sitting there. He never even picked it up. And I told the guy, like, dude, I'll move it for you. And I don't know, he's been too busy working or something on his regular job to even be messing with this thing. But it's still around. It was kind of, I wish it was more reliable, because it was really cool. I really liked running it. It was like a hydrostatic transmission. So you had, right in front of you, you had a stick. It was high, low, neutral, and reverse. And you didn't have to step on any clutches or anything. You could go from high to reverse immediately. And then you could travel in high and be in high gear. And then when you're getting a scoop, you push it into low. And it gave it a lot more power. And it would always get a full scoop. It was pretty cool. But then you had the hand steering with it. And then it had the 4 gears too. So you had your 4 gears, plus you had high and low. So it was like having 8 gears. So the thing was like super fast if you put it in 4th gear and high. If it was more reliable, this thing, that would have been a really cool machine. But I was just fixing it too much. Well, I could keep looking at old photos and talking about them, but I was trying to kind of do them in, the order and the time they were taken. And what year was this? Hang on. This was 2014. So, it's not really how I got started in excavation anymore. So I'm kind of getting off topic. All right, so hopefully this video was entertaining or useful to you. So if you're looking to get started in excavation, hopefully you picked up some good tips out of this. Another good tip I can give you, heavy equipment, it's a little bit of an investment. And one way that really justifies it really well is if you're buying the equipment to work it on your own property and bring it on jobs. It's a little harder to do one or the other. I've seen people where they buy equipment and their whole reason for buying it is just to bring it on jobs and do other people's work. And that's a little hard to do because, one, you're not totally picking up, you can't like be learning or training yourself on jobs. You really got to do it at your own house first. So if you make any mistakes or you're just kind of learning, it's not on some customer's time and annoying someone. And pretty much every job I've ever done for a customer, I did it usually for myself first. So that's how it's a real good experience. And then I've seen people where they'll buy equipment just to work for themselves too. And that's completely fine if you have a huge job and you have the time to do it. you know, buy the equipment, do all the work, then you could even sell the equipment when you're done, even if it takes you a couple years to do the job. That's fine. If it's a smaller job, that's where it gets hard. You know, if you're borderline, oh, should I hire someone? Should I rent it? Should I buy the equipment? So that's, you know, that's tough right there, but, you know, good luck. So, the whole reason I made this video is because I was asked to make it by quite a few different people. So, being that it's winter time now and my work kind of just stopped, essentially, other than snow plowing, I have time to, you know, these videos do take a decent amount of time to make, but I have time to make them. So if anyone has any other suggestions for a video that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments.